organization to address urban environmental issues. Over the next couple of months, the mission solidified. We decided that we would represent and speak for the entire city, not just a single neighborhood or a single borough. We would act collegially in multifaceted teams of experts. We would advocate zealously, and rather than duplicating the work of other established groups, we would focus on issues where we could have the greatest impact. By June, only 5 months later, we had, after our first meeting, Ross Sandler emerged and engineered our assumption of leadership of the glorious but then inactive City Club. From that point, we immediately plunged into the East Midtown rezoning project. The essence of the proposed plan for East Midtown would as much as double the bulk available under existing zoning if the owner would pay an expected $250 per square foot for the privilege. Other groups had much earlier taken the lead in critiquing the planning and design flaws that plagued the project. So we decided to focus on a central issue that had received almost no notice at all. That is, that the zoning was for sale. The essence of the plan was illegal. More than that, the city was rapidly getting into the practice of selling zoning rights. It had happened in several other locations up till then, and the practice inevitably compromised the Planning Commission's integrity. One could not help but ask, in any given situation of upzoning, whether the reason for it was that it was the best land use planning solution, or was the Commission acting as an adjunct to the Department of Finance. We followed up with a detailed written argument of the issue and a strenuous advocacy program, much of which you can see on our website. As you know, in December, the Council rejected the rezoning proposal, and several organizations deserve credit and acted very admirably in the whole process, one of which, or a couple of which are represented here tonight. We're proud to be among them. So what are we going to do next? One thing is to prepare for the next round of the East Midtown zoning, which we don't think has died, and we think is not entirely a bad thing. Upzoning to some extent in East Midtown is not inappropriate. We do believe, though, that it should be done on a comprehensive basis, incorporating specific plans for public spaces and for transportation improvements. Second, we're preparing a court challenge to an extraordinarily egregious example of commercialization of parkland. This is a plan to build a huge shopping mall in Flushing Meadows Park. And you may have seen the slideshow on this screen right here. We'll continue it after the speeches stop, but it tells the story of the project and what our interest in it is. We're at the point now where one of the major impediments is simply raising funds to pay the extremely modest fee requested by our lawyers. They're looking for $25,000 to carry this through the Court of Appeals, which is about as cheap as one can get legal services for. But we urgently have to raise that money. Third, we've just completed the first phase of a study of planning issues facing the new mayor, and you'll hear more of that in a moment. So we're exploring a lot of other issues, and in doing so, we're always asking two questions. What is the significance of the issue for the entire city, and how can we make a difference? Thank you for that comment. Thank you. I'd like now to introduce Juan Rivero to speak about the comprehensive planning project, and I note that Juan has been absolutely invaluable on the East Midtown project and the comprehensive planning issue which we're presenting to the new administration, in addition to doing just a huge amount of work on all of the issues that we've discussed. Juan, there you are.
Hi, good evening. I always has to say a few words about the proposal for planning reform that we wrote and presented to the new administration. Initially we were just going to give them a wish list of development and planning priorities because we figured who else would come up with such an idea. But instead we decided to narrow our focus and address instead the question of how we can make planning and the planning process work better and work better for everyone. And we felt that to do that, we had to stop thinking of planning as just a series of large deals that happen on a piecemeal basis, or worse than that, just a zoning text that is drafted in the service of those deals. And that instead we have to treat planning once more as a framework for the formulation of formulating development policy comprehensively. That didn't come out well, but by that we mean that the city planning department has to once more take the lead and start coordinating across development agencies. And it means that planning has to be coordinated along all levels of government, from regional and city level to the neighborhood level, which involves collaborating with not-for-profits groups, with community groups, and making them active participants in the planning process rather than treating them as an obstruction. And I know that some folks might say, more community involvement? Are you sure that's what the doctor ordered? Have you ever been to a community board meeting? I have. And the answer to that is that if the goal is a more equitable and comprehensive planning process, there's no alternative. You can't just plan from the center. You have to plan from a wide variety of perspectives. And the other response is that you cannot expect an effective level of participation if you give neither the resources nor the responsibility to develop that capacity. So I'm not going to go into the specifics of our reforms except to say that they aim at a planning process that is more comprehensive and inclusive, yes, but also simpler, less cumbersome, and more predictable. We feel that these reforms are necessary if the current administration is to achieve its affordable housing goals, but they're also necessary because equitable planning is more than affordable housing quotas. It also involves expanding our political imagination to allow everyone to have an equal voice in shaping the future of the city. So we encourage everyone to take a look at the document. It will be downstairs on your way out. It is not intended as a definitive recipe or as a fiery manifesto. It's just a conversation starter. So we'd love to hear what you think. If there's stuff that you agree with or that you'd like to respond to, find one of us. Let us know. If there's stuff that you vehemently disagree with, you can seek out Stuart Purse. He's about to say a few words.
Thanks a lot. Couldn't have been a better introduction. The projects that Juan and Michael have described will, we hope, be the core of the work that the City Club is going forward with this year. At the moment, there'll be two committees, two groups of people working on two relatively separate issues. The first will help push important civic decisions out to our communities, and for us to join a conversation with community groups and local civic leaders to get their voices heard, not our voice heard. We know our proposals still need a lot of input. I sent it out, got a manifesto back this afternoon, so I know I'm not perfect, we're not perfect. But we still need to reflect those voices, those other voices, and we have to find a way to get the words right, let alone the implementation right. The second committee will deal with the issues of the disposal of public land that Michael mentioned. as a piece of a larger question of how, under what circumstances, we sell or dispose of public land, public buildings, air rights, advertising rights, or the airwaves. We seem to do it ad hoc. We don't have a system. We don't have a way that we can really find transparent enough to feel comfortable with. And we want members of other organizations to join us. We inherited the name City Club, and we're very proud of the heritage. There it is. The future. Without question.
Stuart, you can't compete with that.
No, exactly. A moment. Wow. We inherited the name, but we're not a 19th century club. We've little place or opportunity to put our feet up. We have no place, actually. And advocacy takes all of our participation and dedication. But for all the history, we are still very nascent. We're still malleable, and we'd like member contributions of time and intelligence to help us make a difference. In this world of New York City planning, preservation, development that we all love, we'd like some help. And one thing, more importantly, because it has been, I must say, terrific to see everybody here, and it is amazing how many people know how many people who were here, so it's very satisfying. I'd like to give some enormous thanks, because this wouldn't happen were it not for Vanessa Gruen, who is somewhere around, who made this a big deal. The incredible task of organizing the party. Way in the back, waving her hand. Kristen Henley and Linda McBride of Center for Fiction for helping us make this space perfect, and it is pretty perfect, surprisingly. Sebastian Canillas, who created the visual image on the invitation. If you saw that, the answer to the universe was there. And Gloria Troy, Phyllis Cohen, Kathy O'Callaghan. Did I say that right? Of course. And Stephen Canillas for hosting and hostessing us downstairs. You have to know. And finally, there's one other. It's very important. It's a moment that we seldom have here at the City Club, which is the first moment. We thank our first recipient of the Sally Goodgold Award. By the way, some of you know Sally Goodgold and some of you don't. Those who don't are our future, just for the record. But anyway, it's the Sally Goodgold Award. It's no money, no plaque, but a big hug. And that goes to Robert Loscalzo, who created the slide presentation on Flushing Meadows Park that's been projected on the So thank you all, and of course to all of our members and future members for coming. And Franny has a closing remark.
I'm Franny Everhart, and I'm your closer, you'll be glad to know. And I can't help but think of and invoke someone, maybe that was him, maybe that's him, and that is Brendan Gill, who, if he were on the planet, I'm sure he would want to be with us here tonight. Now, many of you may remember that Brendan Gill had a way of, he called it rattling his tin cup, when he wanted to raise some money for some of his very good causes. But we're not doing that tonight. I think you may have noticed we have actually not asked for money. What we want, as Stuart said, is your enthusiasm, your devotion, your dedication to New York City. And the only way we can really harness that, because there's this enormous wealth of experience in this room, is by asking you to give us your contact information. We may have it because if you RSVP'd, there probably is a list downstairs. There certainly is a sign-up list on our website. If you are looking for tweets from us, you're going to be disappointed. So you may have to wait until we get some of the younger members of the room to help us out with that. We'll get there. But for now, it's old-fashioned emails. I hope that you will join with us. And then when the day comes that we have a really fabulously important project, then we will ask you for your money. Thank you very much.